Good morning. Welcome to this Sunday morning service with the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Durham, North Carolina. We gather on land that has been home at different times to the Eno, Shakori, Sissipaha, Saponi, and Lumbee people. I'm Reverend Deborah Cayer, and I'm the lead minister here at Eno River. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, welcome. If you're visiting with us for the first or maybe even the second time, I invite you to introduce yourself in the chat box. You can just say hello there, and there's information there about us for you as you do that. At noon today, we offer our Inquirers class. All are welcome. You're especially welcome if you'd like to find out more about us, or if you're considering membership here. We ask that you take this series of classes. So, within the last couple of weeks, the CDC and the state of North Carolina updated their COVID-19 policies, and we did too. And then they updated them again. So we're going to go back and we're going to do it again. We're thrilled with the direction that everything is moving, and obviously we're playing catch up. We're just playing catch up like everybody else, like, all the supermarkets and every business and everybody. So here on our campus at this time, groups are able to meet outside only on our campus. If groups have children in them, masks must be worn. Our kids are not vaccinated, most of them, and masks must be worn to protect our kids, right? Groups, however, with only adults outside may meet without masks if that works for everyone in the group. And we know that you can work that out together in the spirit of love and care for each other. So at this point, we're kind of in the same position as theaters on Broadway. It's going to take time for us to coordinate all the moving parts around here and all of the different systems and make sure that everything all works together, and especially so that it's safe for the unvaccinated, our precious children, and folks who are immune compromised. So this is complex, and it's going to take a while, and we're just trying to get there as soon as possible. We can't wait to be back together in person, so please just stay tuned. Meanwhile, you can find all the information about all of our online programs and classes and groups in our weekly e-news and also on our website. We have a wonderful guest preacher this morning, Reverend Erin Walter, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister, activist, and musician based in Austin, Texas. Erin is the winner of the 2017 Sermon Award from the UU Women's Federation. She is a former YMCA director, and she is the singer-songwriter for the band Parker Woodland, whose music you're going to hear in this service. And if you're like me, you'll be singing it all week long afterward because it's wonderful. Erin serves as a board member for the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry, and she's an affiliated community minister with the Wildflower Unitarian Universalist Church in Austin. So welcome this morning to Reverend Erin Walter. Our tech team members today are Sean Trimble and Jenny Jolly. Scott Gaskins is our sound technician. Kate Lewis is our live musician. And then we have music previously recorded by Reverend Erin and also Melanie DeMoore and a New York City virtual choir. So at this time, let's just take a deep breath together. And just settle into the goodness of this moment, the goodness of this body, your body, the goodness of this time, the goodness of this community. Even separated, we are together in spirit. And so we continue our service this morning with the Prelude. This morning's opening words were written by Alondria Williams. Alondria served as co-moderator of our Unitarian Universalist Association alongside the Reverend Mr. Barb Grieve from 2017 to 2020. Alondria died of natural causes at the young age of 41. Alondria was an incomparable leader, a joyous presence, and an indomitable force in our Unitarian Universalist communities and beyond. Alondria writes, "We are worthy, not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. We are divine bodies of light and darkness. You are not worthy because of what you offer, not because of what is in your mind, not for all the support you have given to others, not for what you give at all. You are worthy and whole just because."
In this great turning, in this great pandemic, in this radical readjustment and alignment, we are not disposable. We are needed. We are the very people that have withstood everything that has been thrown at us as a people. And as Maya Angelou would say, still I rise. We arise from the pain. We rise from the grief. We arise from the limits people place on us and the limits we place on ourselves. We rise to be the children and the ancestors. We rise to be our true selves in relationship to our families and communities.
To everyone that has the courage, the power, the ability to co-create what we need and what we want, while rooting ourselves in what we cannot lose and who we are. You are the visionary. You are the hope. You are our ancestors' dreams. No, you might not ever end up on someone's list somewhere, but you are on a list in someone's heart and in their mind.
Living one's values out loud. Let me every day live my values out loud. Let us every day live our values out loud, embodying our values, not the productivity quotient, beyond productivity, past productivity, true embodiment, life. We light our chalice this morning for the divine power and the possibility within each of us and our beautiful world.
Our first song together this morning is Shine on Me. It's led by Melanie Demore. You'll see the words on your screen, and you can sing along.
Hello, UU family. I'm going to sing a song with you called Shine on Me. It's an amazing spiritual that anybody can sing. And in these days when the things that we're dealing with, the feeling separate and all of that, and things seem so hard, this is one of those songs that you just throw your head back, put it in your medicine kit. All you have to do is ask. And here's how it goes. Shine on me, oh shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me, oh shine on me, yes shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up, oh, lift me up, yes, lift Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up. Oh, hold me close. Yes, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse hold me close. Yes, hold me close. Oh, hold me close. Let the light from the lighthouse, please, hold me close. Oh, shine on me, shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. Oh, shine on me. Yes, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. All you have to do is just ask. The light is always there. Always.
Hello, I'm Claudia Kaplan, co-chair, along with Michael Field, of the 2021 Pledge Drive. I amazed myself when I agreed to be co-chair of this drive, frankly, because I do not like asking people for money. No, thank you, not my cup of tea. But I love ERUUF, my heart is here, and I don't have any problem with asking myself to support it financially because I think of it as giving to myself, one member of a community that is striving to be beloved and inclusive and to make an impact in both our inner and outer worlds. It's investing, and I will be just one of the people who reaps the returns. At one point during the drive, the stewardship team asked if we had set a goal for the amount of money we wanted to see pledged. We had not said anything specific, partly because, along with the entire world, we were in the middle of such crazy, unpredictable times, and we were feeling our way carefully. Last year's drive had been interrupted by COVID. It understandably took its knocks, but it succeeded nonetheless. And ERUUF was able to thrive while we pivoted to adapt to new ways of worshiping and communing and being together, even without being face-to-face. This was proof of our interconnected web and beloved community. But could we pull it off again? Would folks be exhausted, drained, tapped out, or just so much in a fog they couldn't see where they wanted to go with their lives and with ERUUF? So we didn't set a goal. However, I found myself answering the steward team's question that I thought of our goal as being to connect with everyone in the ERUUF community, to assure that everyone was being cared for and supported in any anxiety or grief they might be experiencing, and thus to encourage all of us to open our hearts to being involved and committed to ERUUF during these disruptive times and going forward. This goal is reflected in our theme, each of us, all of us, grow, care, transform. I feel it is a goal we have met. At this point, I am thrilled and proud to announce that the 2021 Pledge Drive is a success. 307 households have participated, pledging approximately $767,000, and we expect a few more pledges to come in still. This is what we have created together. Michael Field and I say thank you from the bottoms of our hearts. To all of you who have chosen to support ERUUF with your time, gifts, or talents, and to all of the volunteers who helped us by making calls and writing thank yous, we are so grateful.
And on behalf of the ministry team and the entire staff, I add my thanks to Claudia's and Michael's. This is awesome. What an amazing thing. 2 years in a row that this community has done. Bravo. We create this community together out of our love and our struggles, our tears and our joy. We create it with the gifts of our time and our talent and our treasure. So at this time, as you listen to this morning's offertory, you might wish to contemplate all of the things to which you are committed, both at ERUUF and just maybe in your life in general. It's a wonderful thing to review. And if you give weekly, you have the chance this morning to do that through the link in the chat box. And so at this time, here is our offertory. We have a reading this morning. It's by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke, who was an Austrian poet who lived from 1875 to 1926. And he lived at various times, even though he was born in Austria. He lived in Russia, Spain, Germany, France, and Italy before finally settling into life in Switzerland. In his writing, Rilke often grappled with the ineffable, and his work is popular today with many people, especially those who are interested in spirituality. This is his poem, "Go to the Limits of Your Longing." Rilke writes, "God speaks to us as he makes us, then walks with us silently out into the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You, sent out beyond your recall, Go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand. Rilke. And now here is Reverend Erin Walter.
Good morning. It is so good to be with you from Austin, Texas, even virtually. I come to you from Wildflower Church, the community room here. Our mission is growing spiritually together, spreading love, justice, and joy. And so I come to you in that spirit. I wish I could be with you in person. I have the fondest memories of being in your sanctuary and getting to meet some of you at Reverend Jacqueline Brett's ordination, which was just one of the best days. But it's a silver lining to be with you this way. Thank you so much to Reverend Deb and Reverend Jacqueline for the invitation. So I want to introduce this anthem to you that you're going to see and hear. The song is called The World's on Fire and We Still Fall in Love. And it's the anthem of my band, Parker Woodland, but it's really become the anthem of my life. I wrote it back in 2019, and I wrote it to grapple with how we center love, beauty, joy, even in the midst of a world on fire, oppression, struggle. And it unfortunately had only become more relevant since we released the song as a band earlier this year. The video that you're going to see, though, is very close to my heart. It was filmed in February and March of this year, and it is the last time that I had my community in my home before the pandemic, and the last time that my band played together in my garage. And I think I said it was this year. Gosh, that's over a year ago. It's blurring together at this point, isn't it? But so when you watch this video, number one, welcome to my home. Number two, please feel free to sing along, get up and dance. Your spirit will be felt even on mute. But perhaps most importantly, I want to ask you these two spiritual questions to consider while you're watching this video. Because what my bandmates and I and my friends, my kids, everybody in this video sort of unwittingly did at the time was we documented our joy practices. We documented the spirit of our community. So I want you to look at some of those joy practices: wigs, bubbles, trampoline, rock and roll, pancakes, twister, hugs. There's so much. And don't just count them, but think about, what are your joy practices? What are the little things that can just insert some joy into your day, into your life when you need it most for you? And have you been using them in this pandemic? And could you use them even more in the year and the rest of your life ahead? So that's question number one. What are your joy practices? If this were a video of your joy, what would it look like? And number two, who would be in that video if it was yours, if it was your community? What would this scene look like if you were documenting the last joyful gathering before something changed? And I ask you to think about that in the way to envision what we are fighting for as we continue to stay safe, but navigating this second year of a world with COVID and the transition into being out and about a little bit more, more people getting vaccines. But who is at the core of your life and community, and how can you safely and joyfully envision those gatherings again? So I hope you enjoy The World's on Fire and We Still Fall in Love.
It's a hard time to look for hope when the truth can't feel like a joke or worse. They tell you it's your fault if you trust. But there's one thing I know, it's this: opposites do coexist, and the last thing they'll ever kill is love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we're not giving up. No, no, I could let you go, say it's not worth it. Oh, I could give up before we know. And what's the use in having hope? And even though everything's wrong and it shows, I still look at you and I know one thing could be perfect. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we're not giving up. No, no. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we're not giving up. No, no. I don't wanna be naive, but I catch myself wanting to believe, and I think I could take a risk this time. It's a hard time to look for hope when the truth can't feel like a joke or worse. They tell you it's your fault if you try. World's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we're not giving up. No, no. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love. The world's on fire and we'll still fall in love.
Thank you for joining me in my home and for sharing music together. Here in Austin, which is known as the live music capital of the world, it has been especially heartbreaking to have over a year for many of us without live music, and I know that we miss singing together in church so much too. I'm grateful for the silver lining of being able to share a little bit of my joy with you. I will tell you that I waited about 6 months to wash that paint off my glass back doors that the kids had put during the video shoot. The hearts that they made with their fingers, they dried in the Texas sun onto my doors. And it was a reminder, something that I couldn't let go for a while. But I've been thinking a lot about this quote from the Indian author and activist Arundhati Roy, because when it came time, my mom and I washed that paint off, and the sense of release and the new view of the world again. We had so much light in the living room again. You could see the yard. It felt like an exhale. And so I've been weighing kind of what we need and what we can let go in this time of transition. And this quote from Arundhati Roy speaks to that I want to share with you. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice, our hatred, our avarice and databanks, dead ideas, dead rivers, and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. I love that so much. Ready to fight for it. I know what I'm fighting for when I watch that video. I know which joy practices and which people and what kind of community I'm fighting for. But the phrase that I've put in my spiritual medicine kit is little luggage. So what are we bringing forward? I want to invite you during this time to think about, what do you want to bring forward through the portal of this time into this new world that we're building, creating together, that we're fighting for? And what might you be able to leave behind? So for me, one of the things that I'm definitely bringing forward is poetry. We saw the power of poetry with Amanda Gorman at the inauguration. We experience it in worship on Sundays. We need it for our spirit. And I wouldn't have called myself a poetry person per se, but I have really been savoring this one that you've heard already, this Go to the Limits of Your Longing by Rainer Maria Rilke. A friend sent that poem to me early in the pandemic. They knew that I was struggling with losing live music, losing dance in person. I actually used to teach Zumba in this very room, and now I teach it from here over Zoom every week. It's not the same, but it's a joy practice that I've had to adapt. But they knew that it was hard as a mom having kids home from school. And so they sent me that poem because of that line that you heard, "No feeling is final." They wanted to remind me that my sorrow, my grief would not last forever. And I was so grateful for that message. I have felt at the limits of my longing this year so many times. I imagine you have too. Sometimes just when we think we've been pushed or pulled to the limits of our longing, then here comes that next thing. And we have to remember all over again that no feeling is final. This stole reminds me, joy cometh in the morning, hold on. But what I want to say about that line, no feeling is final, is that in time, after watching that World's on Fire and We Still Fall in Love video every Sunday for so many weeks on this virtual tour I'm doing with congregations, I realized it's not just the sorrow that applies to that line, it's the joy. And what that tells me is that we should savor and share and amplify and lift up our joy when we feel it. Some of us, not all of us, but some of us feel like joy is something to hide under a bushel sometimes. We don't want to make other people feel bad. There's so much suffering in the world. But joy is contagious. Laughter is contagious. So this video, again, we didn't know. What if we had decided not to do it because, or we wanted to make a sad video, but we didn't know that the joy we were feeling, all of that, would be gone. We'd be quarantined in our homes. Some of the folks in that video had COVID later. Some of them have gone through divorce. We've lost family members. It has been a very, very hard time for that community. But we savored that joy while we could, and I'm so glad that we did. And so that no feeling is final reminds us not to hide our light under a bushel, to share and invite others in to our joy. So those practices that you might have gathered in your mind, those joy practices while you were watching my video, maybe for you the joy practices are gardening or theater or walking the dog, it could be anything. Are you finding ways to safely invite others in? An invitation is so powerful. And I know for many of us, church has been a joy practice this year, something to hold on to week after week, a way to see beloveds. Are you inviting people in to church? some other things with Roy's quote in mind about the portal and then Rilke's words, some other things that I want to bring forward and leave behind. I want to leave behind negative language around darkness. And I want to bring forward sacred and positive language around darkness and blackness and brownness. And here's where I see that in this wonderful poem. In the voice of God, of the divine, Rilke writes, "You, sent out beyond your recall, go to the limits of your longing, embody me. Flare up like a flame and make big shadows I can move in." So where is the divine? Where is God? In the big shadows, in the darkness, which means that darkness is divine. You know this, but it's worth saying as many times as we can, that darkness is divine and that it's beautiful and that is life-giving. So the divine is in the womb where life grows, which is dark. The divine is in the soil. Here we are in May, things are growing. The divine is there in the darkness and richness of the soil where it looks like things are exploding apart, but it's really growth, and we know that. It's birth, and there is that darkness, and there is the divine in the night sky with the stars. And what that reminds me of are the many nights in the past 14 months when I have woken up in my grief. I would joke to people that I have trouble sleeping so that my negative and sad thoughts can have time to themselves when everyone is asleep. But I've had so many nights where it's just me and the darkness. And so to be reminded that when we are sad, when we are alone, when we feel forsaken, that time, that is when God is with us. Make big shadows I can move in. Flare up like a flame. There's that world on fire where love still is. Reverend Meg Barnhouse, who is the senior minister of First UU here in Austin, has used language of divine light and sacred dark. And I like that because so many of our metaphors have this binary where dark or black or brown is bad and light is good. We need to remember that it's both sacred and divine, light and dark. And so that I share that language with you if you need it. I'm carrying it through the portal with me, divine light and sacred dark, or however you want to frame it. I would love to know, because I know there are wise and wonderful people in this congregation, I would love to know what language you use to lift up the beauty, the divinity of darkness. It has been such a gift to have this poem in my life this year for those reminders and for so much more. I love that last line, "Give me your hand." I cannot wait until we can hold hands more as we come through this portal. I give thanks for poetry, for art, for music, for community, for messages like this one, that God is with us. And I hope you can take that in for your own hard times and take it through the portal with you and remember. Another thing that I want to share with you along these same lines, having to do with bringing joy practices through the portal and leaving some of our negativity behind, is a piece from the book of Exodus. And feminist scholar Carol Myers has argued that Exodus might be the most important book of the Bible. And based on this one part, it certainly is to me. I will be reading from the Poverty and Justice edition of the Bible, which the Reverend Dr. William Barber once mentioned he used, and I thought, well, that's the one I'm going to get. I grew up UU with not a lot of Bible, and I've wanted to expand my biblical literacy and literacy in many sacred texts because I was working as an interfaith chaplain at the YMCA of Austin before COVID layoffs, which were another part of my grief this year. But I loved that work, and I wanted to have a Bible that represented my grounding as a UU in those spaces. So anyway, what you need to know, I love to highlight books, but all this highlighting I didn't do. The highlighting in this book is already there for passages about poverty and justice, and I trust that you care about those as Unitarian Universalists, so I share this with you. But here we have, from the Song of Miriam in the book of Exodus. I think you probably know a bit of this story, if not a lot of it. The Israelites are on the long, hard road from slavery to the promised land, through the wilderness, through the desert. And I invite you to connect with this scripture in whatever way is authentic to you. Chapter 16, verses 19 through 21. After the Israelites had walked safely through on dry ground, Miriam, the sister of Aaron, was a prophet. So she took her tambourine and led the other women out to play their tambourines and to dance. Then she sang to them. On this long, hard journey into the unknown, the women made time, saved energy, found a way to sing and to dance. And Miriam, who was a prophet, brought a tambourine. One of my colleagues from seminary, Mandy McGlynn, wrote about what did it take, not just to prioritize bringing a tambourine when they probably couldn't have carried much, but the care it must have taken to silently pack a tambourine for that journey. The picture in this story of the women taking care to pack their joy. It's profoundly moving to me, and I hope you are taking great care to bring your joy through the portal. Here's my favorite part of this piece, and it's two letters. For the word nerds among us, and I know there are many, I was a journalist before I was a minister, so I proudly call myself a word nerd. This two-letter word makes all the difference to me. Miriam was a prophet, so she took her tambourine. Not Miriam was a prophet, and they tolerated her tambourine. Not Miriam was a prophet, and by the way, she had a tambourine. Miriam was a prophet, so she took her tambourine and she led the women out, and they sang and they danced. Friends, as people of faith, we all have a prophetic voice and a prophetic message of interconnectedness, of the inherent worth and dignity of every person to bring forth into a world that is desperately in need of that love and that healing, that community. And we're gonna need to do it with joy. So I'll ask you again the question that I asked you before the World's on Fire video. What are your instruments of joy? And how are you using them as an invitation? Or to put it another way, what is your tambourine? The tambourine in the story is an instrument of joy, and it is an instrument of inclusion in our lives, music, the arts. So I hope you're bringing your instruments into this faith community and into the world as safely, as proudly, and as vibrantly as you can. The world needs it. Thank you for this sacred time together.
The poet Rilke wrote, "You, darkness of whom I am born, I love you more than the flame that illumines just a small circle of the world and excludes all the rest. But the darkness The darkness embraces everything, shapes and shadows, creatures and me, people and nations, just as they are. Rilke. Would you join me in spoken meditation and prayer? In the great darkness of this past year, separated from family and friends, at times we've struggled to feel a sense of connection to the ones we love. But the love remains, always. Help us, great darkness, keep faith with the possibility of presence through illness, accident, and misunderstanding. Help us keep faith with each other. This morning we hold in our hearts Nancy Henley as she begins treatment for breast cancer, and Earl Johnson, who is now in hospice. Our hearts are with his beloved wife, Juanita, and their family. This morning, we also send our great longing for peace in the Middle East into the darkness and confusion, and we reach for our trust that a new possibility might come. And we hold all the people, Palestinians and Israelis, Muslim and Jews, in our hearts, in our intentions, and in our prayers. In this sacred place and time, we also send our love and our care to all in the world who are struggling with the pandemic and COVID-19 in any way, in any shape, in any form. Let's pause here for a moment of silence to hear what is murmuring through our own hearts. May we always remember that in the darkness of great differences and great difficulty, there is always love and new life. There is music and the possibility of civility and genuine connection, friendship, and great joy. May it ever be so. Amen. Our final song together this morning is How Can I Keep From Singing? This is a version by a New York City choir. You can find the words if you'd like to sing along in the chat box.
No storm can shake my inmost heart, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin, I see the blue above it. And day by day, this pathway's smooth, since first I learned to love it. How can we keep from singing? Friends, we leave our gathering and we go into the difficulty and the beauty of this day to live, to love, to be a source of strength and comfort and connection, a source of peace, a source of joy for the world. We will keep singing alone, separately, together, with masks, until we're back singing freely as we just are longing to do. May it be so soon. Amen. Amen. Amen.